All right, welcome. My name is Tammy Kabell, and let's go ahead and get started on today's teleclass. Lewis Lowry's on the phone with me, and he's actually going to be interviewing me because I don't like to lecture and not hear anything, even crickets, for an hour. So Lewis is a former client of mine who has kind of joined my organization and has continued to help me out because he really believes in what I do. So, Lewis,
well,
let's
you,
go
Tammy.
ahead and get started. Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And greetings to everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Tammy because I think it's important for you all to know who you're talking with today and we'll be hearing from today as well. Tammy is a job strategist, resume writer, and the owner of Career Resume Consulting. She has been marketing her clients successfully into new careers for over 8 years. In addition to that, Tammy has been featured as an expert multiple times in the Wall Street Journal, MSNBC.com, Monster, Career Builders, The Ladders, the Kansas City Star, and dozens of other online and paper publications. She is also the author of the Job Search Accelerator Blueprint and Resume Reboot. Serving the Kansas City area and the U.S., Tammy lives in Lee Summit, Missouri. So that's a little bit of information about Tammy, and at this point we're going to put her back on, and she's going to share with us some great information about gaining the competitive advantage in a six-figure interview.
Yeah, thank you, Lewis. And I'm very excited to share this with you because along with having a rock star resume, being able to interview at a high level is key to landing your next six-figure position. So a little housekeeping first. I wanted to let you know that everyone's on mute. So if you're sneezing or coughing or if there's thunder in the background, if you're here in Kansas City, then we won't hear it. But when it comes to the question and answer session at the end, you can press star 2 to raise your hand, and I can take you off mute, and you can ask a question. And today it's very interesting. We have a lot more people listening in online than we do on the phone. We have about, it looks like we've got here at the last minute about 35, 37 people on the phone, and we've got 10 or 12 more than that online listening. So welcome to everybody. If you are online and you're listening and you have a question, you don't have to save it till the end. You can type it in. There's a box in the lower left-hand corner as you're listening, and I will get to those questions at the end. And I do have somebody that sent a question in ahead of time, so that'll be our first question and answer at the beginning of that, which will be at the end of the call. So just to let you know, if you're listening in online, I would certainly invite you to give your questions anytime that you do have a question throughout the hour. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of background, because I know that a lot of new people signed up for this teleclass series over the last week or two. Most of my experience comes from operations, actually. I use my psychology degree a lot in what I do, but I did a lot of hiring. I've got 18 years of hiring manager experience, 10 of which with American Century here in Kansas City. And on my 10th anniversary, I was laid off. So I was unemployed for a full year, didn't know how to find a job. This was back in 2003. And actually a recruiter finally contacted me from an executive career firm, and I started out in sales, quickly learned that it was very difficult for me to sell. I am not a salesperson. I'm more in operations. But they offered me a job as a marketing director. So for 5 years, I was with the largest executive career firm in the business. They're a full-service firm. Not going to mention their name because they're a competitor of mine right now, but they charge $8,500 to $12,500 for what they do. Definitely worth it I think so. If they save you a couple of months worth of searching, then they paid for themselves if you're looking for $120,000 or $150,000 a year job. But I'm telling you this because in six-figure clients, that's really my niche. That's really my sweet spot. I work really well with six-figure clients, and I help them change careers. I've been on my own since 2008, and actually I have become, especially in the last year, become much more successful getting clients six-figure positions on my own than I did when I was working for this large executive career firm. And I don't charge $8,500 for my services. So I've been very proud about that. In fact, I think that a lot of it has to do with the economy revving up, but since the fourth quarter of last year, I would say a majority of my clients, over 50% of six-figure clients, are getting positions in 10 weeks or less. So I'm very, very proud of that statistic. So let's talk about this call and who this call is intended for.
Right. Well, Tammy, what are we going to learn today then?
Yeah. Well, if you haven't interviewed in a while, or if you haven't interviewed for the level of position that you're looking for right now, or on the other end of the spectrum, if you've interviewed a lot but you've never got an offer, I'm going to give you things today that you can do to gain a competitive advantage in a six-figure interview. So, in learning the most important factor in a successful interview, after that I'm going to give you 6 things that you can do to make sure that you're using this knowledge most effectively. So let's go ahead and get started. In a successful interview, when you think about it, are interviews just question and answer sessions? This may happen, and usually an interview that turns into a good offer involves a lot more than that. Last year, I read a statistic not too long ago that there were over 260 million interviews last year, even with this depressed economy. And, no 2 of those interviews are the same. So if you think about the most successful interviews that you've had in the past, they were probably more like two-way conversations than just stiff question and answer sessions, right? So think about those, and there are a lot of techniques that you can use to gain that chemistry, that two-way exploratory conversation type chemistry with a hiring manager. What I'm going to share with you today is based on several studies that I've read, several surveys, and if you've been in a hiring position, you know this to be true, meaning if you've hired people. People hire people that they like over people that are more qualified, period. That's really important to know. And, before you roll your eyes and you think, she's just telling me to be more likable, and that's the number one secret, I think you need to hear me out. It's a very simple principle, and you may think it's kind of a duh principle when you hear it, but implementing the simple principle is absolutely essential to winning the interview. So I know that a lot of you on the call have been in a position to hire, and so as I'm going through all of this, you may be nodding your head when I'm talking about it. But a lot of you never really thought to specifically use techniques when you're interviewing for your own position in making yourself more likable or building personal chemistry with the hiring manager as you're talking to them.
Now, Tammy, I know when you were coaching me in 2009, a lot of information you share with me was common sense. In fact, it was rather thought-provoking as I was listening to you, though some of it was counterintuitive. But when I actually applied it, it made immediate difference in the success of my search.
Yeah, and that's why I want to share it today, because it does work for every single one of my clients. So this is stuff that I do give to my paying clients that I want to share with you a piece of that today. Successful interviewing depends on how well you can build the chemistry and find out what's important to the employer, and how well you can tell the stories of your experience and your achievements, how you answer difficult questions, and how you project the right image.
So with that, Tammy, then, what are the 6 ways you'd like to share with us on how to build this chemistry?
Sure. Okay, so number 1, on how to build maximum personal chemistry. And keep in mind, too, this is going to be recorded. You can listen to the replay later. So as I'm talking, if you're not getting all of the notes down, you can always go ahead and listen to the replay. It's available for the next 30 days, and you can also download it and share it with other people if you'd like. So number 1 is researching the firm and the hiring manager to help build the chemistry. So in other words, make it your business not only to know the firm's website, but to further to learn about their industry and learn about the competitors, especially if you're changing industries, and learn about the person that you'll be meeting. So when it comes to learning about the industry, learning about the firm or the company, what you want to do is Google that company, Google the name of the company in quotes, and then a plus sign, and then the city that they're in, because there are a lot of companies with similar names that are out there outside of the city that you're at. And it looks like we've got people on the phone right now that are throughout the United States. Most people listening are here in Kansas City. So Google, for instance, Quintiles, in quotes, and then a plus sign, and then, quote, Kansas City, Missouri. And then here's the deal. Check 4 to 6 pages out. So instead of just looking on the first 2 pages, I have consistently found gems for my clients on the 5th page, on the 6th page, stuff that doesn't normally come up, that aren't. It's not on the website, but it could be news articles, press releases from a quarter ago or 6 months ago. You do have to check the date line. In other words, if you see an article, you click on it, and it's 5 pages back, it very well could be from 2007. So you need to check the date line when you're looking 5 or 6 pages out. But if you do that and go that extra step, you're going to find things about the company that aren't on their website. And that can be very impressive when you're framing questions, showing them that you have done your research. Also, research the hiring manager. And a lot of you have been on my prior calls. I think on a prior call I talked about Pipl.com, P-I-P-L. It's like people, but it's P-I-P-L.com. But you can use that. I talked about it earlier in using it to research yourself to find out what your internet footprint is or your internet presence is. But it's a very powerful tool to research the hiring manager. You actually, if you put in their name and the city, then you can find out all kinds of information about them, some of which they probably don't want you to know, and you're not going to mention because you don't want to look like a stalker. But for instance, it'll show their home address. So if you take the step further and go to Google Maps, you can find out if they live on a golf course, or you can find out if they live on a lake. So if they live on a golf course, they probably golf, and you might mention in the first 5 or 10 minutes that the weather's getting nice and you can't wait to get out on the links again. So at that point, you've built a connection within the first 5 minutes. And so building chemistry can be done by finding a connection with the hiring manager through looking at Pipl. You can find their Facebook profile, and through that, a lot of times if they don't have the security set very tight, you can find out what groups they belong to, and therefore you can find their interests. If there's something that you have as a connection with them, you can build upon that and just casually mention that you're going to be doing something this weekend. Just happens to be the same interest that they do. Again, building that connection very quickly. You can research the company and the industry to frame really great, relevant questions that shows the hiring manager that you've done your homework. And it's very, very impressive to a hiring manager if you mention that in your research about the company you've come across certain information and it's not on the website. Sometimes it's not even something that they are aware of that's out there.
Well, and Tammy, I tell you, I know that Pipl, because when you mention it, I always think back the time that when you and I were working together. It's a fantastic resource to find out information about the hiring manager. But I think one thing you made it clear to me is that it's good. It's always great to know and to Pipl yourself so that you can know what's out there about you. That's really important.